Most importantly, the basics I'll not go into. Let's talk about CV. Right now, few common mistakes you guys commit. First question that comes to me is, ma'am, is a black and white format necessary or not? On YouTube also, last session which Abhidev was taking, a lot of people were asking the same question: should your CV be in black and white format, in a justified note, or can it be in a brochure format or any other fancy format which is available on YouTube these days? See, try to understand as law students. If you're a law student watching this session, try keeping it in a black and white format and avoid all those new formats which have come up, which are in color, fluorescent colors. The only reason being that even if your first application is going to the HR for internship, and you might be able to impress the HR with your new designs or whatever new softwares you are using. Ultimately, if the same CV lands in the hands of the partner or the senior partner for your job, right? Most of the time, what happens is you apply for an internship, you apply for callback, and then you actually land up for a job interview, PPO interview. At that point of time, when your CV lands in the hands of the partner, these partners are mostly the old school people who prefer having legal documents or formal documents in the form of black and white format. Okay, they may not want to have like different kinds of highlighted colors or titles or tables in your CV, right? So that's why my suggestion to the students is always keep your CV in a simple justified and formatted format. Okay, why what do I mean by formatted format? The standard format is the font should be Times New Roman. The size should be either 12 or 10. In between 10 to 12, the headings can be 12 size or 11.5, and the text can be 10.5. Then the document should mandatorily be justified. If you're using bullet points, do not use asterisks, rather use the black dots, and the bullet should be uniform. Okay, use the same kind of bullet throughout the document. Avoid using numbers in your CV. Okay, then your internships, when you're mentioning about your internships, always mention your internships in reverse chronological order. Now the question comes, ma'am, why should we have our internship in reverse chronological order? There's a reason for that. If you're in your fourth year or in your fifth year, you might have done a lot of smaller internships in your first year, like with NGOs, with district court and all. Right now, when you are sending your CV, have a salesman approach. Now what do I mean by a salesman approach? That you have to think from the point of view of the buyer. Now, who is the buyer here? The buyer is the recruiter to whom you are applying for an internship, right? You are kind of selling your profile that I am the perfect fit for, who should be joining your organization, right? So you have to think from their point of view. Now, if the buyer, meaning your senior who will be interviewing you for that internship or assessment internship or callback or PPO or job interview, right? From their point of view, you have to think that if somebody is going through your CV, right, whatever comes on top, they 95% chances are that the person will be asking you questions from top to bottom and not bottom to top, right? There are 5% people who just want to grill you and just want to have some fun. They will definitely pick things from anywhere. However, if somebody is taking an interview in a structured manner, they will always start from top to bottom, right? So if they're going from top to bottom, you do not want to talk about something which you had worked upon 4 years back and you are not aware of it. Rather, you would want to talk about something which you've recently worked upon and you can answer about it, right? For example, if you're in your fourth year and you've recently done an internship on, say, Vodafone judgment case, or say this one, the Reliance and Big Bazaar deal, right? So if you've recently done something, some research work, you would know about that particular subject and you will easily be able to answer questions related to that. However, imagine if in your first year, so for example, when I was interning in Supreme Court, the Kamakhya judgment was running at that point of time and I was working on that particular file, right? But at present, I do not know what is the current position. Whether, like, I know what was the final judgment of that case, but I don't know whether there was another appeal which went there, or is there any other case law which has repealed that, which has overruled the previous judgment, right? So if you're trying to talk about your first year, second year internships on top, be prepared that they will be asking you questions related to that particular law and linking it with current position of law, right? So if you have time, if you have that much of energy to revisit everything, then you can write in any format. Otherwise, always prefer to write your internships in reverse chronological order. Second most important thing, one thing which differentiates LawSeco CV format with any other CV format is, at LawSeco we always say that before mentioning about your internships or your moot courts or anything else, always talk about your skill sets on top. Okay, like I said, we'll have a salesman approach. So from salesman approach, you have to think what are the skill sets can you offer to the other person, right? The other person is hiring you as their legal support. right? So from that point of view, you have to tell the other person, how can I help you? You can say, I can help you in drafting, you can say, I can help you in research work, whatever your skill sets are. Like for example, in Law Seco, somebody who's doing a contract drafting course, right, can say the skill sets he knows is, I know how to draft an operations and management contract if he is applying for L&T, or if he is applying for a bank related internship, the person says, I already know how to draft a loan agreement, right? That gives a completely different impression. You always want to stand out over the 10,000 applications that particular HR is receiving, right? So therefore, always talk about what you can offer to that particular organization, to that particular team, or to that particular partner on top. Then you talk about your internships, what kind of internships you've done. On those internships, when you're mentioning the kind of work you've done, you always have to be very, very, very specific. Okay, this is another big mistake which most of you guys do, that you say that I have researched upon Arbitration Act, or I have researched upon Consumer Act. Now, when you say I have researched upon Arbitration Act, during interview round, there are 3 levels of interviews somebody can take. Level 1 is where they ask you direct questions, okay, from your CV. So, for example, if I say I have done research on Section 12 or Section 32 of the Arbitration Act, the person will directly ask, okay, tell me what is Section 32 of the Arbitration Act. This is level 1, which is basic, which is where the question is directly flowing from your CV. Whatever you've told that I know this, the person will ask you a direct question from that. Level 2 is where the person does not ask you with respect to that particular provision which you mentioned, but will ask you from another provision from the same law. For example, if you say I've researched upon, say, Article 14 or Article 19, the person might ask you the difference between 14, 19 and 21, or might ask you what are fundamental duties, fundamental rights, or emergency provisions, right? So the scope was still limited to the constitutional law, right? Constitution of India. Now, the third level, which is the toughest level, which most probably they don't ask from freshers, but could be very few recruiters when they are like out of 100, they've shortlisted top 5, but they just have 1 or 2 vacancies. That is the time when they'll go to level 3. Now, what is level 3? In level 3, they will not only ask from that particular law, but will also relate it to current position of law in that particular subject, or any other overlapping law, right? So what happens is, if your CV is not very specific, as a law student, you give the other person the opportunity to ask you questions from level 2 and level 3, right? If you can manage to get a job with a level 1 interview, do not try to make things tougher for you, right? So always be very specific with your internship description, that I have researched upon section so and so of this particular law. That gives a better impression rather than saying I have done research on constitutional law. Now, second most important common mistake you guys do is, when you write about your litigation internships, 2 points I've seen in almost 99% of the CVs are: first, read case laws or prepared case briefs, and second is visited courtroom proceeding, observed courtroom proceedings or visited courts with a senior, right? Now, I'll jokingly say कि अगर ये 2 चीजें लिख रहे हो आप अपने CV में, तो थर्ड चीज ये भी लिख दो that I wore formals to attend the internship proceedings, or I wore formals for my internship office, right? Saying that during my internship, litigation internship, I visited courts is just like saying मैंने formals पहने थे during my internship, right? Both the things don't make any sense, right? तो इसीलिए avoid writing this thing, rather make it more specific, okay? What kind of work did you do? If you have prepared a legal notice, talk about what the issue was, right? Say, I prepared a legal notice on recovering XYZ amount, recovering amount in XYZ kind of matter. Whatever work you've done, right? That gives a much better impression in comparison to any other general candidate who's saying I have prepared legal notices. Now, legal notice can be for anything. When I was working for Mumbai Metro, every single day we used to draft so many legal notices to the other party, right? And they could flow from any different kind of, they could flow from any subject, right? Could be under labor law, could be under Consumer Protection Act, could be anything, right? So if you make a general statement that I have done research on, I've drafted legal notices, you are telling the other person to ask you questions from any subject, right? You're taking them, like giving them the opportunity to ask you questions from level 2 and level 3, right? But you always want them to ask you first questions from level 1, because level 1 makes things easier. आपके लिए comfortable हो जाता है, you know the answer, and the other person is also happy that yes, whatever this person is claiming to know, this person is already aware of it. ठीक है, ये चीज का ध्यान रखना.